Today on How It's Made. Fishing reels, answering a casting call. Miniature houses, model homes for the young and the young at heart. And kitchen mixers will bring you the ingredients from the factory in a special two-part report. It's stirring stuff. But first, in the 12th century, the Chinese were the first to wind excess fishing line onto their rods before unreeling it back into the water. Today's reels are made with lightweight, high-strength materials and have gears to quickly deploy and retrieve the line, so you can catch bigger and stronger fish. Or at least try to. Antique reels are heavy and have just one speed. Modern reels have 2 or more speeds and fewer parts. To make a reel's frame, a computer-guided router cuts 4 openings in a cylinder made of aluminium. They let the angler access the spool inside the frame to undo any knots in the line. Another cutting machine shapes a stainless steel blank into a spindle, the inner part of the reel around which the fishing line winds. It also carves 2 pinion gears into the piece. The high gear retrieves the line faster. The low gear gives more power to fight big fish. The machine's cutters are made of carbide, an extremely durable material. Even so, they're changed on a weekly basis. Another cutter carves the reel's main gears, a high speed and a low speed. These main gears interact with the pinion gears to make the spool revolve. This lets the angler wind line back onto the reel. This cutter drills small indentations, part of the reel's drag system, which lets the angler adjust the line tension. The next cutter engraves the company name onto one of the reel's 2 side plates. Yet another cutter engraves the drag settings: 1, 2, 3, 4, and strike. Strike lets the angler fight fish weighing up to 900 kilos. The side plates are dipped in a series of chemical baths that bind a gold-colored dye to their surface, a process called anodizing. Now, to assemble the fishing reel, waterproof grease and lubricant are applied to 2 safety catches that prevent an angler from using too little or too much line tension. A bearing is then added to support the spindle in the spool. A click plate is also installed. This makes a sound when a fish takes the line. A stainless steel spindle sleeve and drag plate are added, as is a sturdy synthetic washer. The spindle and pinion gears are added to the spool. The spool is now ready to go into the frame. A rotating clamp steadies the reel, and the stainless steel fixture that attaches the reel to the rod is installed. And the left side plate is attached with 6 screws. This metal spring and plunger enabled the angler to change speeds from high to low with just the push of a button. A metal clip locks the mechanism in place. A little grease is added to the gearing, and the spool is fully assembled. It's inserted into the frame, and a harness lug is added. This lug will be attached to a fighting harness, worn to prevent a fish from yanking the rod out of the angler's hands. Next, the right side plate is mounted in place. A lever and a knob which will adjust the drag settings are added. The knob is turned clockwise for more tension, anti-clockwise for less. Next comes the installation of the stainless steel and plastic knob used to reel the line in. And finally, the button for switching speeds. The drag lever and the gears are checked to see if they engage properly. The reel is tested at high speed to see if the safety catch prevents what's called free spooling, a glitch that could send 900 meters of line flying wildly out of control. And that's a situation that would leave you reeling. For hundreds of years, dolls' houses have been hot property. At first they were built to entertain the children of the wealthy, but eventually mass production made these mini mansions widely available. Today they continue to be great places for childhood fantasies to reside. Any home building project is all about the details, but the details don't get much smaller than this. These dolls' houses are miniature versions of actual homes, made to scale. A large sheet of plywood is sliced into smaller pieces. For a consistently accurate job, a saw guide is used, which positions the wood for a specific cut. There's a different guide for each part. Using a hot iron, the company name is branded onto one of the foundation pieces. This doll's house will be sold as a kit. Here's a demonstration of how it should be put together. Back on the production line, the siding is being milled. This machine cuts furrows in wooden panels. This beveled effect mimics the exterior woodwork found on some houses. Next, holes for the windows and doors are cut using a router. And now the walls go up. Because this is a kit, each piece has to be a perfect fit. The first floor is installed and taped with masking tape while the glue dries. And now for the second story. It can take up to 100 hours to paint and assemble all the parts in a doll's house kit, depending on how elaborate the design is. Next, they raise the roof. This Victorian design has a two-part roof with a tower in the middle. Weight is added to apply pressure while the glue dries. This machine's protective cover has been temporarily removed to show its inner workings. A piece of pine is carefully fed in. It cuts the board into shingles, which fall into a bin below. Once the shingles are stained, they are hot glued to the roof, following a grid that was penciled on in advance. The roof is wrapped with tape to stabilize it while the glue dries. Back in the factory, 4 cutting wheels shape a piece of pine into moldings that will be used for trim on various models. The door now goes on. It's been trimmed with some of the molding we just saw being made. The windows also use molding details. All this trim has been made on the same machine, using different cutters for the different profiles. This railing is a nice touch, and it will also provide support for the structure. All that's left is the interior decorating. Some people spend a small fortune on this stuff. Tiny toilets, chairs, even full kitchens in miniature. In this model of the home of Abraham Lincoln, the details are historically accurate. The pieces are packed carefully. Soon they'll make some child's dream of owning their own home come true. But first, somebody had better read the instructions. Coming up on How It's Made, we're all in a spin as we bring you a two-part special looking at kitchen mixers. See you after the break. Welcome back to How It's Made. Whipping up a dessert used to take a fair bit of muscle power until a mixer with a motor was invented in the early part of the 20th century. The first ones were very industrial looking and not much like today's sleek models. But with this invention, the job of baking is a piece of cake. Today's mixers can whisk you into a world of culinary delight. To make one, a machine straightens wire between rows of wheels. Computer-programmed forming tools make 12 bends to produce shapes, which will be used to build a whip attachment for the mixer. To assemble a whip, a technician fits the wire arcs into an aluminium hub, starting with the largest one and graduating down to the smallest. Underneath, a punch mechanism dimples the hub to fasten each wire to it. Here, dough hooks and beaters are dropped into a vibrating bowl full of metal nuggets. The friction polishes these zinc mixer attachments and gets rid of the sharp edges. Next, a band of aluminium is threaded into a machine that bends it to the contour of the mixer. This piece of trim carries the brand name. A bowl feeder now funnels hollow iron weights towards a system that threads wire through each one of them. Mechanical arms pinch and bend the wire, making small hooks on the ends. 2 of these weights will be used in each speed governor, the device which keeps the mixer's speed constant despite changes in the load. To assemble the speed governor, they arrange a brass hub, spring and a washer in a holding device and then press fit them together. The 2 weights are attached to the spring assembly using the protruding wires. The speed governor system is now complete. Here's how the governor weights fly out to regulate the mixer's speed. It's now time to prepare the motor shaft. This spinning steel cylinder is lowered to a revolving cutter. Lubricant keeps the cutter cool as it carves spirals into the end of the shaft. The spiraling grooves will allow the shaft to drive the mixer's internal gears. With its motor windings and bearings attached, the shaft is installed into the mixer body. Next, electrical contacts are riveted to plastic control boards. These contacts will conduct electricity to drive the motor. An electrical charge is delivered to the contacts to make sure they're working. Then, screws, nuts and springs are attached to complete the control board assembly. The control board will work in conjunction with the governor weights to control the mixer's speed. For these mixers to really shine, they'll need a good paint job. The mixer parts are polished on an abrasive belt to prepare them for painting. Then it's into the paint booth. This is a highly charged process. The paint has a positive electrical charge and is attracted to the zinc mixer parts, which are negatively charged. Now all the parts are in the mix. And coming up next, we'll show you how they all come together. Behind many a successful cook is a well-oiled machine that's made for speed. And that's the electric mixer. It produces the best results when the blades turn rapidly. If they turn too slowly, they won't mix the batter thoroughly. And that means your pastry could be a flop. To assemble this tilt-head mixer, a gear which will drive the attachments is installed. Next comes the stator, which creates the electrical field for the motor. A dab of oil is applied before the shaft and motor windings are mounted inside the unit. 2 motor brushes are slid into pre-drilled holes. The motor brushes will supply electricity to the internal components. This bearing bracket holds the motor in place. The front of it is lubricated and the electrical control board added. A trim band with the brand name on it is wrapped around the outside. Next, grease is poured into the section of the mixer that will hold the gears. The gear section will be sealed so the grease can't leak out. The other half of the unit, that already has some gears fixed to it, is attached. A drive pin that will move the whisk and other attachments is inserted in the shaft. More grease is applied to this section, and the 2 halves are screwed together. And then the planetary gear is installed. This gear will rotate the mixer attachments around the bowl. A pin is hammered in place to attach the planetary gear. A decorative ring is tapped onto the outside. The motor unit is mounted to the base. And an identification number is marked onto the bottom. Now the tilt-head mixer goes for a spin. The next step is to adjust the speed. The technician installs a speed-setting tool in the hub of the mixer. While the gears turn, he checks the readout and tunes it up. Each mixer has to be able to make a dizzying 200 rotations every minute. The hub is capped. The final step is to test the beater. It must be correctly positioned above the bowl. One last polish, and it's ready. Over at another station, a more commercial type of food mixer is being made. One with a bowl that lifts to the beater instead of a tilt head that lowers to the bowl. A base is screwed to a bowl support piece. Then the lower housing for the beater motor is attached. As the mixer moves on a conveyor, the motor and gears are installed. A generous squirt of grease is used to lubricate the transmission. And then the top of the motor is encased with more housing. Continuing down the line, the electrical speed controls are installed and topped off with more housing. The signature piece of trim is wrapped around it. The wattage and speed are checked using a probe. It passes inspection and it's ready for packing. It's taken approximately 10 minutes to assemble this mixer, but it's been made to last a lifetime. And with such a wide range of attachments for these mixers, you really can go stir crazy. So, whether you've fallen for this item hook, line and sinker, or this little miniature marvel makes you feel more at home, or perhaps our look at a classy kitchen gadget has you all in a spin, now you know how it's made.